Episode number 50. This is a big week from a couple different perspectives. Yes, it's my 50th episode, which means consistency has maintained within my life, and I'm extremely grateful for it because I've grown in so many different areas and I can see the results. And that's everything that this podcast speaks to, is just results in one's life to go on the journey within and see what they can become. I mean, my story is just an example of what that is. I've had the opportunity recently to have conversations with many wonderful guests, and my 50th episode is home to Dr. Alan Simberg. This gentleman has so much academic credentials that I actually had to write it down. He's got a PhD in counseling psychology, a licensed marriage and family therapist, and a licensed chemical dependency counselor, has a certification in applied clinical nutrition, and over 50 years in the game. So what that means is Dr. Alan Simberg has experience on this planet in his field. And this conversation touches on many other things other than the field of work that he works in, which is really incredible because I'd set up the entire interview around a one-on-one meet each other, but the conversation was so great that I decided to use it for my 50th episode because I've changed the way I do podcasting. I removed the perfectionism and the expectations surrounding an idea of what it means to be a podcaster, and I went outside with my computer and I just got to be myself. So that was the other thing that I'm really proud of this week, is trying something new, and the results of that were really beautiful. So you'll witness that in this episode, and I appreciate everyone for all the love and all the support. I mean, 50 episodes, I'm just getting started because I found a new flow, or I found the flow to tap into and share authenticity of myself and my connection to people and information from outside of an institutional perspective. So much love. Hope you enjoy the episode and leave me likes, comments, subscribes, all the things, and check out my guest and everything he has to offer. Much love. I have a wonderful doctor, the only doctor I have ever really truly valued in this life, because the man is 70 something years old and he's super transparent. He said to me, "Justin, we all got to pay in this life. Now, you want to pay now or you want to pay later? You need to ask yourself that question." And I was like, damn, that made me think, because I thought, how do I not pay in this life? Because I didn't like that. He was so right. It was such a real thing to say that I was like, I had better become so friggin' aware of what he just said that at the end, I'm rewarded with the experience of just, transmuting, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't want sugar. I mean, I did heroin and crack and all the drugs for like 23 years. And, I made it out of that with very little damage, which is just incredible, actually. The most damage that was done to me was done through, I did spray foam for like 12 years, which was like a polyurethane chemical insulation.
Oh.
Destroyed me. I got the lungs of like a 70-year-old man, a 60-year-old man. That's what they told me. So they wanted to medicate me, obviously. And I told them, I said, no, I read some books about what they used to do with individuals who had compromised respiratory, and they would induce action. So basically you would impact your lungs to grow and to push them, to reenact them. So whereas the chemical or the synthetic drug that they would give you would sort of act as the symptom cure, right? It just gets you by, but then you get addicted to the friggin' drug. So
or it stops working, or you get incredible side effects.
Absolutely. So for me, running around with 2 friggin' inhalers that, up here in Canada cost like $500, I was like, I think I'm going to take this back to the First Nations way and do this like a native.
Yeah. There's a lot of wisdom in nature.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And just in our bodies, in ourselves, I truly believe we can heal
we can heal ourselves. Like we really can. If we can heal our emotional traumas, which is in this life, man, people are carrying their emotional traumas right to the end. So that's the thing that does break them down. So if I can overcome that at 40, all the shit that happened to me, which I'm so grateful for today, then what can I do when I'm 80? Because I process in the moment now. I don't carry shit with me. So it's like, where are our healing mechanisms and our capabilities when we are processing our emotions in the moment?
Yeah. Well, there's a book which I never read, but I got the book that our body is the pharmacy.
Ooh, interesting.
And basically what we do is we nourish our body, we give it what it needs, whether it be herbs, supplements, food, and then the body takes over and does what it does best.
Yeah, you're right. It's a relationship, with the organic earth that we are part of. But the freaking pharmaceutical companies, man, they synthesize the shit out of everything. And then the biochemistry of each individual is unique to the emotional experiences that it's faced over this time, because the nervous system is obstructed by that journey. So now you synthesize an experience and symptoms, and this is where we see complications and side effects, like you say. And they're generalizing an experience. So they're saying that this medication is good for these symptoms, but it's like, whoa. Like, if a guy's been carrying emotional trauma for 20 years previous this depression, this isn't going to work for that root core issue, And that's where my disconnect and my disbelief in pharmaceutical comes from. And up here in Canada, man, like, if you go to the doctor, okay, for me, when you walk into the doctor's office, the first four things that should come out of that doctor's mouth is, do you sleep well? What are your sleep patterns like? How much water do you drink? Clean water, spring water. What's your diet like? How much sugar and caffeine are you taking in a normal...
And gluten.
And gluten, absolutely. And the fourth thing, are you exercising? What are you doing in your daily life? Those four things need to be addressed. And the fifth, what was your childhood like? Because if I know your childhood, that should be the first. Because if I know your childhood, then I know why the patterns and behaviors for those four things are acting the way they are. Because we're trying to supplement a comfort and a convenience for uncomfortable feelings from our past. So I think that's why, and the system just fills the system full of sugar and caffeine. I mean, everything is filled with chemicals and shit in it. So you get addicted to a feeling that is not something internal to you. You know that externally from you. So Big Macs, sodas, candy, this kind of thing makes you feel good subconsciously from having to feel anything uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How old are you?
You want to take a guess first? Or you want me just to tell you?
Well, my grandmother always taught me to see the inner child in people, and I'm looking at an 18-year-old young man.
Okay, and then my actual age.
Your external age? The external age of wisdom, I would say, I don't know, like, what are you, 58, 60?
And now you want the answer, right?
Well, I'm fishing here, Alan. I'm fishing.
I don't want you to get tired fishing.
I don't give up too easy.
No. Okay, 76.
Oh, well done, sir. Well done. No, that's good. Good for you. And you're still going, I mean, despite these health complications.
Well, I have many more health complications than that, but I'm still going.
And I think, can I ask you a question? I'm going to ask you a personal question.
Why not?
Are you a stubborn man? Okay. And I'll tell you why I asked that. The women in my life that are elderly, very close to my heart, are freaking stubborn old ladies. But they do not... My grandmother, and my mother, I have seen these women carry pain that most men wouldn't get out of bed for in the morning. Not to say there's a difference between men and women.
Right.
Societal conversation, which many people like to associate different ideologies.
Male and female.
Yeah. We'll have the conversation. So, but yeah, my mother and my grandmother, they pursue life with this ease and an ability to carry this immense amount of pain. And I feel like that is what gets them out of bed. My grandmother just turned 90. She lives alone. She drives. I have wonderful conversations with her. She has some arthritis in her legs. Of course, body breaks down over time. But certainly she is one of the coolest individuals I know. And we talk about this kind of thing. And I said to her, I said, is this the result of your stubbornness? Because she won't say nothing till it's like, far too late, right?
Mm.
So I was curious if that might have been the same translation in your life, if you're able to carry an immense amount of pain each day. Maybe that's the way I should have worded it.
Well, I am.
Okay, that's the way I should have worded it. Sorry.
Yeah. And also a way that I would describe myself is I feel strongly about things that I believe in, but I never tell anybody what to do. I mean, unless it's, maybe a life or death thing and it's a professional thing.
Yeah.
But I'll always say what I believe and why, and then leave it up to the person to decide if they're willing to accept it or even just experiment with it.
Yeah. That's when you say that, my wife comes to my mind, and I was a drug addict for 23 years, and I'd created all these patterns and behaviors that weren't good for me. But then I had my awakening into love, and I decided to let go of that life and process my past and be somebody different in the present moment. But after you step out of a 23-year life like that, you still have these patterns and behaviors that are not beneficial for your personal growth, but they're normal to you, so you do them, especially within relationships. I had very toxic relationships, but a large part due to my part in the relationship. It was never easy for the women that I was dating because I was a full-blown drug addict. But there was always this desire to, point my faults out and mistakes out and put them right in my face. That's a normal practice of society, I believe. But the way my wife did it, and the way it sounds like you do it, was she asked me who I was. Is this the person you want to be? Take a look at the person that you are acting like and ask yourself if that's who you are. And my mind was blown. I was like,
Yeah.
She leaves you with the reflection. Here's the experience, here's the act, now reflect. And it was like, what the heck, man? Who is this girl? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd never had that before. And I think that was a really important thing that we can do to share as humans. But it sounds like you're doing that too.
Oh, yeah. I definitely do that.
That's really nice. So where are you located?
Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas. I got a brother in, where's my brother? Yeah, he's in Houston.
Oh.
Yeah, he's in the Houston area somewhere. He's from Mexico.
Okay. Yeah. So he might be like in one of the so-called suburbs of Houston, of the city itself. Like Sugarland, Pearland.
Yeah, he's working on
or the Heights. I mean, there's so many different areas.
He's on an acreage somewhere out there. He's like one with the animals. He is just
okay. Well, he's definitely not in Houston, not in the main part of Houston. That's city.
Oh no, you're right. Suburbs. Yeah, I guess when you say Houston, yeah, it's just like here in Canada. People ask me when I tell them I'm from Canada, they're like, "You're from Toronto, right?" I got friends in Toronto. You must know them. I'm like, man, Toronto's huge. Like what?
Yeah.
So you understand trauma, yeah?
Yep.
And how to manage trauma. So show me a little bit what that looks like when we're talking about trauma, because I think this is something that many people are experiencing. So any kind of information or gifts or shared experience, lived experience that we can bring to an awareness to help people grow is what I do.
So I'll tell you the way and that's not one of my specialties, but I do talk to clients who talk to me about their trauma.
Okay.
So what I explain to them is that whatever experiences that they've had that were traumatic has taught them to think and feel a certain way.
Okay.
Because it has such a profound impact, that thinking and behaving continues, because when the trauma was going on, that thinking and behavior was necessary.
Right. Like a defense mechanism.
Yeah, and also protection.
Right.
But now that you're no longer being subjected to that trauma, it's developing a different way to think and behave and see that it's okay and you're no longer in danger.
Right. Right. That's so that's past thinking in the present moment. So carrying a past experience with you in the present moment will have you carry out patterns and behaviors from a time when things were not safe or insecure or fearful. And you practice those behaviors in the present moment, even though the experience has taken place already.
And you imagine it to be continuing, or you're guarding against it repeating.
Because the experience has not yet been processed. Excellent. I think that's a wonderful observation to have, simply because it puts people in the present moment with what they're carrying from their past and why they act the way they act. Because I think we go on autopilot, hey? Like if you're acting a certain way from your childhood where you could never speak your truth surrounding an experience, which is why it's difficult for many of us to process things, then we end up creating that identity of ourselves that is not our true authentic selves, and which is why we feel disconnected in the present moment, is because we've never really addressed that experience from the past. And I think that that's so important. What I say to those people is it's already happened. And even though, like you just said, the experience is happening even though it hasn't happened because the feeling is still there, I think that that's where we can begin to heal. Is that's a wonderful reference point to say, okay, that happened 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So I've had a journey beyond that point, and a lot of it has been lost due to the fact that I've been stuck in a time surrounding this one experience. So what can I learn from that experience?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
For me, when I look at like a lot, what comes up is like controlling mothers, controlling parents, not being seen, not being heard. Your generation has a very confused idea of love, because your mother and father were never taught what self-love and self-care was. So therefore, they were never given that education and the tools. And at that time, when your father and mother were young parents, life was very difficult.
Oh,
You know, it was a survive situation. So we didn't have time to process feelings because nobody had time for personal reflection or conversation of personal growth, because it was an external growth of survival for the whole family. That was a misconception that was bled into the people, because had we valued personal growth and reflection as a family, the family would have grown in a much different way, even though the circumstances were very difficult. Although that never happened. So which is why we have your generation, my generation, and my parents' generation confused about what our idea of love is. And I think when it comes to controlling parents or not being seen, not being heard, individuals that were not loved, we really have to look at what our parents went through. And rather than blame and victim mentality the experience, we can step back. And this is a beautiful thing about love that I learned, is that we can use tools like gratitude and empathy and compassion and understanding for our parents' upbringing that did not have these tools. And I mean, I'm not sure if you have a manual, Alan, but is there a manual for parenting?
that's what I always talk about to people.
I ask the same question.
Yeah. No,
So,
no, 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 no. But I'm saying, like, I know what you're saying there.
right.
We learn as you go along. I mean, there's certain basic guidelines, but basically not the true way of being a parent.
That's right.
And unfortunately, as you said, at least I think you said this, that people learn to parent the way they're parented.
That,
And sometimes that's really sad.
yeah. You read my mind, because I did not say that, but
Oh, okay.
this is where the conversation was going. So you and me are in the flow state. We're in the
Wee
flow.
doggies.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Parenting by default of what we witness with our parents that never were shown love in their life, often we create the same patterns and behaviors. And you know what that is? That's generational trauma. Now, what I say to many people is you have an opportunity in your life to continue with generational trauma of not having the education and the tools, or we can look at our present moment and look at our experience and learn from our past and learn from our parents' mistakes and say, you know what, I'm going to step out of my comfort zone. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to talk about the shit that I went through in my life because my parents didn't have it all figured out. So now I don't have it all figured out, and I'm okay with talking about that. So if I reach out to people around me, find communities of individuals that are having these conversations, then I know in my life I'm going to grow past this repetitive cycle of self-abuse and self-sabotage. And I will not instill this in the children that I created, because I can be accountable in my life to say, I need help.
Amen.
Right? In my life, that's when things changed. I 23 years of addiction, I always thought I could have it figured out, but I could never figure out why I was doing it. You know, I didn't have a language for the inability to process feelings. And then, you know, this shit happens to you when you're so young, and you go through life and you get further away from that core root issue because all these other things are happening. So then you really are confused about the language of how to process and how to grow.
Yeah, exactly.
But
That's what I call distraction.
absolutely. And that's what addiction is. Addiction is just a distraction from an inability to process emotions or emotional traumas. That's exactly what it is. The only disease part of addiction, and I've been in the freaking game for 23 years, to anyone listening to this, that you can know, like, I know what I'm talking about when it comes to this shit. The only aspect of disease is the dis-ease that we carry within the body. It's so uncomfortable to be an addict. Like, it's just so difficult. People see people on the street bent over. You know, we have all this, everyone knows what fentanyl is today. We all know what methamphetamines is, and we all have an idea of the label of what a junkie looks like or a drug addict looks like. I'm gonna tell you, like, from a drug addict perspective, that shit ain't easy. It's so heavy, the life. It's a really difficult one, and it's self-inflicted, of course. But if we don't have a language to understand our emotions and how to process them, and we don't have guides, teachers, and examples of what that looks like, you carry the journey, and you carry the experience with you. I think for me, you know, I surrendered my love. I don't know if you know this, Alan, but you know, 23 years of this wild, crazy life. I was homeless for years, 16 years with a needle. Really, really difficult experience. Again, self-inflicted.
Well, it's survival. It's basic survival.
Absolutely. And I went to jail, took some things that weren't mine, and ended up in jail. And I ended up reading a book about a guy who had a similar life to me. And I surrendered my love to Jesus in that jail cell. And man, I can't deny it to this day. And I don't deny it anymore. I've learned how to talk about this, because religion and myself are two different things. I struggle with that organization and its philosophies and the book that it stands behind. It doesn't have any relevance to me in my life, because I believe all the characters in the story, including Jesus. Jesus was a man. He came here. He did wonderful things, and he left a beautiful imprint on this grid around the earth, this energetic grid, because Jesus was a high vibrational frequency, because he understood love, he understood kindness, compassion, empathy, communication, respect, trust, honesty, and at the foremost of everything, he did with love and equality. So when you are that example in this life, you leave something behind that people remember you for. But that does not mean that we can't obtain that in our own lives. Because if we look to these individuals as being the teachers of an example of how we can lead our own lives, then the world could become a very different place. But I feel like the book, I shouldn't call it the little book, the book, the Bible, is very confusing in how it misleads people around stories from 2,500 years ago that they're not living in their own lives. They have to sell people on this idea of a story that took place at a time that is not relevant today. And I feel like if they told the stories from their own perspective and their own experience, it would be more impactful because I'd be able to associate with a human that's right in front of me, and I'd be able to learn from them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How do you feel about Jesus and all that?
Well, get ready.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I believe that all organized religions have the same basic spiritual foundation that you just described
Okay.
about love.
Okay.
Humans have taken parts of the spiritual foundation and created religion,
Yeah.
which is loaded with judgment and like hierarchy, who's better than who's worse and all that.
Yeah.
So I think when people are raised with a certain religion and the religion helps them to discover the spiritual foundation, the religion has served a really big purpose. If religion keeps people locked in, the person overall is not able to get to where they need to be spiritually. So not religiously, spiritually. See, you could be spiritual, in my opinion, you could be spiritual and religious, but there's a difference between being religious. See, from my point of view, being religious is following guidelines so you're doing the right thing.
Correct.
Being spiritual is coming from love and caring and kindness and compassion and empathy and always having the best intention possible, even in human form. Because sometimes we don't always do that. That humanness gets in the way sometimes.
Right. I think I'm really grateful for you describing that way. I struggle with religion a lot because of exactly how you described it. And, then we can throw in pedophilia and, profit, wealth, incurred wealth, hierarchy, all that other stuff. But I love how you said that if religion serves its purpose to guide an individual to spirituality, it has served its purpose. And I guess I don't put up a wall, but I might have some conflict within the idea of religion that you just deteriorated. So I'm grateful for you for that because it allows me to see something another way. And I can agree with that. I really see the benefit in an individual being guided to spirituality because when you do obtain spirituality in your own personal form and in my own life, you understand that it's love, so that you would never really have to view one of your brothers and sisters, a human being, a part of the human race, which makes us all the same, as a Muslim or as a Buddhist or as a Christian, regardless of their practice, because you would understand that these are individuals that are experiencing their own experience. So we just show up with love because we do understand the spiritual concept of life. And that's, like that part after religion is where I think a lot of people get lost and locked into this idea because religion is telling them what spirituality is, when in reality, you can be led to spirituality through religion, but after that, it's a very, very personal journey of self-discovery. And, I always looked at like Jesus and Buddha and Krishna and even Allah as being examples of love. Man convoluted the experience with death, destruction, control, and greed and power.
Not with an apple?
Sorry, and yeah, exactly. And with the freaking apple.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is now that we're speaking on this, I'll speak to an aspect that I've recently learned about. Well, I've learned about a year ago. Our understanding of God. So we talk about God all over the world. There's many different ideas and understandings of what that is. But to me, what I've come to understand about God is God, or the prime source. The way I talk about it is the prime creator. So if the prime creator is an aspect of what we are made in, so we must be made of divine masculine and divine feminine energy. So everybody has divine masculine and divine feminine energy within us, because everything that actually matters.
What do you call that? Do you know?
Divine masculine, divine feminine energy?
That's in us. Do you have a name for that?
No, do you?
Yeah,
What is it?
your soul.
Oh, okay. All right. That's the container of the energy, or the energy itself.
Is it okay if I just add something in real quick?
100%, please.
Okay. Do you know Neil Donald Walsh?
I do not.
Okay. Neil Donald Walsh, he doesn't live in Canada. Or maybe he does. I don't know. He's an author.
Okay.
And he went through an extremely difficult time in his life. One night he woke up and he was just so distraught. He went downstairs and he just prayed to God. He said, God, please, why am I going through all this? Please help me. And then he took out a pad and pen, or maybe it was a pencil, who knows. And he started, you know what automatic writing is?
Yeah, sure. Kind of like channeling?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, there's so many different names for the same thing. Yeah. And he said what God told him was that we are God in human form.
Yeah.
That God created us, spirit, whatever we want to say, created us so that it could learn about itself.
Yes.
So part of what I believe forms the strongest connection between people, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a relationship, like a love relationship or whatever,
Right.
is when their souls are able to recognize each other.
Absolutely. And you know what?
No.
What happened for me, man, is when I met my wife, the girl I'm with, after I met her 6 weeks after I got out of jail. So I was, a little not elevated, but like more aware. I'll tell you this. I'll share this with you. I was down on a nude beach in Vancouver, and I wasn't wearing any clothes. I walked up to the girl and she looked up at me, and she did not look into my eyes. She was looking somewhere else, and she said, "I'm going to marry you." I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh, that was pretty cool, though. That's pretty cool. I like that.
That was the worst. That was the worst.
I like that.
Yeah, no. We were on a nude beach. But I was down there, and it was 6 weeks after I'd come into this awareness. I was back in Vancouver. There was 3 girls that I don't know, just in this moment. The sun was going down, and I had just noticed these 3 girls, and I thought, you know what? I'm a new way in life. I'm going to approach someone. And I was just checking out. The 3 girls were in their different way. One was reading a book laying down. One was tanning, very obvious idea of what beauty is today. And then there was the girl who is my wife, and she was sitting there with her back to me, actually. But just the way the sun hit her, I was like, okay, you know what? Today's the day. This is the girl. I got up and I went in and I talked to her, and I just said, hey, we had a conversation, and I had asked her some pretty deep questions about life, and I imprinted on her as much as she imprinted on me. But there was that recognition, like you say, like it was incredible when it happened, because that. But I absolutely agree with the author that you were describing there. I've come to understand the same thing, and we get so caught up in this human experience because we've been manipulated to believe that the external vessel is the identity that we carry in this life, when really it's just the container for the light or the soul or the energies. And the sooner we can understand the inner understanding of who we are and what we are, the quicker we'll be able to create the reality we want to live in. Because like the author said, we are created in God's image, but God, the masculine...
But it's not explained the way we're talking about it.
No, religion...
No.
So that's another part, though, about religion, because that is so chauvinistic. Like, when there's so many, like the Father, God is a man. It's like, wait a minute. God can't be a man. It's elevated past the idea and the function of what we believe is a man. No, man, like that's not, how can that be? God would understand the equality and the importance of the divine masculine and the divine feminine, because this is why we can create within two genders. You know, we can have this experience in this way. And to speak on that, I think a lot of the reason why kids are confused today is, well, a lack of conversation within families, but I think there's a strong confusion within this masculine and feminine energy within them.
Definitely.
And they think that needs to be correlated or translated or emulated from this external value. So now we're seeing a man who's got whiskers but wearing makeup and a wig, and we're judging that for a transsexual, when really it's like, well, wait a minute, like, that's divine masculine, divine feminine, that's what it looks like inside that experience. Who the heck am I to judge that? Right? What were you?
Well, yeah, it's not usual. First of all, it's not usual to be able to have this conversation with just anybody.
No, I appreciate it.
No, I don't even know half of what I was at, because whatever you're saying is like, there are so many things that are going off in my mind that relates to what you're saying. But what I was going to say at that moment was, one of the differences for me. Okay, I'm going to say it. I think there's a human language and a spiritual language.
Okay.
I think an example of human language is what you just described, judgment.
Right.
I think an example of spiritual language is assessing.
Interesting. So
without prejudice.
Right. So maybe assessing and understanding.
Yes.
Right?
Rather than judge. Yes. So I'll just give you a quick example of the way I conceptualize that.
Okay.
If something happens that I didn't want to have happen, or something didn't happen that I wanted to have happen, I want somebody to be a certain way. Rather than getting all blustery about it, assess the situation. Let's say, for example, you have an argument with somebody. Okay, I don't want to have an argument. I have an argument.
Right.
That'll be the example. Okay. Instead of contributing to the argument, assess what did contribute to the argument and what I can do to help it become a discussion rather than an argument.
Oh, beautiful. You think before you react.
Managing emotions.
Yes.
Which, of course, is the human part.
Yes. I believe in the mastery of life, and I believe in the mastery of life not defined through success, ones and zeros in a bank account, or titles, because that's all bullshit. Because you got many of examples of people that are in powers of control and they're completely debilitated with an understanding of love or equality, or, you know, what's real in terms of an evolutionary state from within. So I believe that the power of self-reflection and emotional stability is everything in this life, because it offers, like, the mastery of life. That's correct. Yeah. It offers us a new purpose. And I think that in myself,
one quick thing, and a new way of being.
Yes. And I think this trajectory that we've been on with these old world thinking, old world systems, old world behaviors that are being indoctrinated into our being have come to an end. And there are many individuals in this life that are choosing to break generational trauma and not be reactive to a state of being, and choose stillness and contemplation over their responsibility of their actions. And yeah, I'm super grateful that you shared that. That's an absolute necessity in this life, yet it's undervalued. And I've also learned that when we value something, oh my gosh, like, It's the thing you do because it has a value to it.
Yeah.
So you're 76?
Yeah.
I love having this conversation with, like, my grandmother is very religious, and that's okay. She's been brought up in that way, and that's cool. You know, she finds her peace within religion.
Right.
I'm
Right.
very respectful of it. Not a problem. I tried to have conversations with her in the beginning, and she has her own understanding. So it's like, grandma finds peace, Sarah, I'm cool with you. You know, my grandmother's a sweet lady. She judges people from time to time. I'll be honest about that. And that's acceptable, I guess, within the church and herself. So, you know,
Yeah.
she arrives at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It's part of it.
It's part of it.
But the other thing is, on an unconscious, this is just okay. I also believe that on an unconscious level, that's a way of defending one's belief
Right.
by judging. See, you're not doing it my way, but my way is the right way.
Right. Right. And that's a wonderful realization within spirituality. And I think spirituality, you know, a lot of people are confused by what it is, but I think, like, this is how you get it. By listening to conversations and perspectives, you're able to hear how other people are experiencing life in their own way and their practices, and then you take those pieces and you apply them in your own life in your own way. If a philosophy that we speak of fits, then try it. What were you going to say?
And by getting to the point of realizing certain thoughts and certain ways of being that we are is not really where it's supposed to be. So mistreating people, for example.
Yes.
You know, I think what I'm about to tell you does actually fit in here. It's kind of a funny story in a way. I'm only going to tell you something. I don't want to assume you know it. You may know it, but I don't want you to feel insulted if you know it and I'm assuming you don't know it.
No, that's okay. No problem.
Okay. In the Jewish religion, there's a holiday called Yom Kippur, and some people will say Yom Kippur. Anyway, okay. It's considered the Day of Atonement.
Okay.
And also in the Jewish religion, like probably all other religions, there are certain dietary guidelines. And if you don't follow it, you go to hell. Okay. So my brother-in-law, who's no longer in human form, was extremely religious.
Okay.
I came back to his home after I was at just a regular everyday celebration, and I ate pig.
Okay.
And when I told him, I didn't even realize it was the holiday. That kind of was out of my mind. Like, not in a mean way, but he went crazy. He goes, "What? Not only did you eat pig on Yom Kippur, the highest holy holiday in the Jewish religion?" He goes, "I can't believe you did that." But that's an example of what religion teaches. And one of the things that I learned that still is a little bit difficult for me, it's still a little bit in there, but one of the things I had to learn was that Creator doesn't judge.
Yeah.
And like this thing about heaven and hell and stuff. And one of my most frightening moments in my life was when I went to an amusement park during Passover. And Passover, there's certain things you're not supposed to eat. So I was a kid. I was like 12 or 13 years old. I ate something that you're not supposed to eat on Passover. And then I went on a double level Ferris wheel. So it's two Ferris wheels, and at certain points, one Ferris wheel is way above the other one.
Okay.
So at one point, the Ferris wheel stopped because, it has to let people off and let people on. And the bench that I don't know what to call it, the seat that I was sitting on started to sway. I was thoroughly convinced that God was angry with me because I ate a pretzel and that he
Yeah,
was going to kill me. And I remember immediately going into prayer and promising God that if he would spare me, I would never do that again.
belief systems. They are an incredible power of what they can hold within the creation of one's reality that
Yeah,
does not know anything beyond it.
yeah.
And that I'm so grateful that you shared that because, to us, sitting here having done inner work and connecting to something outside of the conventional forms of religion, we're able to see that anything that goes in the organic vessel, yes, we must watch what we eat, of course, because we must care for the vessel it houses the light, absolutely. But to think that you're not going to get into this place called heaven or hell based on what the organic matter is that goes into you is just like absurd, simply because the experience in itself is the everything. And
And that's a reflection of the power component and the control component of religion.
absolutely. But as you were saying that, this kind of popped into my mind, and I want to talk to you a little bit about this. Like, I have learned through some books. I have read like one or two books that found me short reads about individuals who channel spirits, and they offer wisdom from a higher realm. And in one of the books I read, it was called oh shoot, Spiritual Unfoldment. It was called Spiritual Unfoldment, and it was found to me early in my days in a thrift store. You know how synchronicities, the right things finds us at the right time.
Yeah.
I believe it's a White Owl book, so anybody listening to this, check it out. It's a really wonderful book, and it's an easy read. It was explaining the density of meat and how that obstructs an energetic flow, because if the crown chakra or the tip of our vessel is the access point for energy to flow in, and the root chakra, or where our feet are, is the exit point for energy to flow through us at a steady pace, or not a steady pace. We can choose its
It
integration.
varies. It varies probably.
Yeah, and I believe that vary can be, emotional experiences that are not processed. So that's like mud that gets in the way of the energy. And then they say that meat is a denser energy because the animals in factory farming are stressed out and afraid and filled with hormones. So meat really isn't a bad thing or a poor choice. It's the way the animals are treated that really needs to be the reflection of what we're taking in. Because just like a human, if you fill it full of stress, fear, and anxiety, the human breaks down and it's dependent on other humans, or it dies because
And
of.
has dis-ease.
That's correct. Dis-ease, exactly. So the same thing happens with an animal. Just because it doesn't use the words that we do or walks around and has a job doesn't mean that it's not energy itself, because it is. So if that energy cannot be transmuted through that animal because of its situation, and we ingest that, then the energetic flow that flows in through the top of the vessel and comes into the organic vessel could be obstructed by what we take in. Now, I wonder if the Bible, or what, the
Kabbalah, whatever.
Kabbalah,
Yeah.
whatever, this has been manipulated in its rewriting, so that it fits a certain narrative to the agenda of the organization that it's portraying. I wonder, though, there's truths, underlying truths in everything. If they were speaking to the meats in that sense. Now, I mean, we're talking about long time ago, but as you were speaking to that kind of surfaced for me. I thought maybe there was an idea to have a conversation surrounding meat, or the awareness of certain meats and the energy associated to it, but they utilized this book as a way to control humans. And it works very well, like you say. I mean, unbelievable that state that you were put in because of that.
Yeah. Religion and product marketing have the same exact thing in common. Identify the fear, make you not want it, and give the solution.
Exactly. But do not give them the do not give them what they need to find it on their own.
Only what I want you to have.
Exactly. Exactly. My wife put it best there a couple of months ago. She said, we were in, we've been going back and forth to Mexico. My wife's from Mexico. So I've been learning a lot about the Roman Catholic Church, and that is just wild.
Oof.
It is what it is. It's spent
Well,
2,500.
it serves its purpose because, see, I think whatever we experience that isn't has the potential to lead us to what is.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree, because anything can transmute from one thing to another. But it's been built up on the philosophy of it be serving its own purpose for its,
Right,
not for the
right.
people. So can it change and become for the people? Absolutely. I don't deny that it couldn't. But in its current form, it's for a very small portion of people.
How about this? Instead of in its current form, in its current prevalence.
Right. Yes, that's a much better way of speaking to it.
Well, it's more precise.
Absolutely, and I would agree. I think that that's a nicer way, a prevalent form of what it exists as currently. I think that's a much nicer way to put it. Thank you.
Yeah,
And I
there's
think
it's still too much of an influence at this point.
right, absolutely. And the way it got there is, my wife said to me, she said the church uses Jesus. They grabbed Jesus and they said Jesus belongs to this, but Jesus doesn't belong to anything but the people. He came here for the people, and he came
Can I
here.
throw
Yeah,
one
yeah,
quick thing
please,
in here?
please,
Okay.
please, please.
I don't know anything to say about this, but I'll tell you what I was told by a person.
Okay.
There's Jesus Christ, which is what's part of the church, and there's Jesus the Christ that really was the Christ.
Interesting.
And I don't know I've never read anything on it. I don't have any understanding of it other than what I would say is Jesus the Christ was one of the spiritual aspects of Creator, and Jesus Christ is religion made.
I would absolutely agree with that. And that's how I come to learn to talk about Jesus. Religion talks about Jesus from all the fantasies and characters and from that perspective. That's fine. That's what it does. No problem. But the way that I speak about Jesus was the remembering of a man who had nothing, but he had something more than what society was saying that was something. He had love, he had light, he had guidance and wisdom and understanding of an emotional stability. And he seen mankind as equals. So he was able to go into areas with less and offer something more. Because
Yeah.
he didn't have the money, he had time and energy. And when we look at Jesus from that perspective, we can go, wow, okay, I don't need to judge my brothers and sisters. Like, I have an example of what I can become in this life to really change the world, because that's what Jesus was trying to teach us, is that if we are kind and compassionate to ourselves, we will become that in the world, and there won't be any need for learned behaviors of dividing or dividend.
Yeah. Carolyn Mace, and she spells her last name Myss,
Okay.
is a spiritual teacher. And what I'm going to say is a reflection of what you just said.
Okay.
She talks about two different kinds of truth. Truth with a small t and truth with a capital T. Truth with the small t is the human truth.
Okay.
Truth with the capital T, it doesn't matter whether you believe it or not, it's so.
Right.
And what we were just talking about in terms of the religion Jesus and the non-religion Jesus, that's the small t and the capital T.
Right. Right. I think to arrive at the capital T and the small t, it's very personal, and in challenging belief systems that have been created over 2,500 years, it's difficult for a lot of people to do because they think they're challenging the Bible. And I really don't share about anything other than, it's not really about a challenge. We don't have to fight anything, but you certainly must question. Questioning things in life is absolutely acceptable because it allows you to arrive at an answer on your own terms. And it allows you to seek multiple perspectives surrounding the question. Now, when we look at religion, it's delivered from one narrative. There's no outside the box. I've met people that tell me, if you believe anything outside the Bible, you're wrong. And
Uh-huh.
I send them off with, love and gratitude, no problem. You know what I mean? It's cool. But it's a very compartmentalized thinking. And
Yeah.
we really have to look at, like, when our thoughts are being delivered to us from another's perspective, we have to look at what that individual stands for. And we have to look at their experience in and when I do that with religion, the Pope has a 24 karat gold toilet. And I think of Jesus coming back and going into the Vatican and going, wait a minute, you mean you guys got this? You got, how much is that jet sitting outside that 3 people fly on? We've got suffering all over the world without education and without food and poverty. And religion is heavily tied in with politics. So it seems to be an absolute ability for you to persuade thinking and thoughts within the current economic structure of society. So why aren't you doing that? And why would you hide pedophilia within an organization? Or why would there be hierarchies? Like, why would you need titles, and why would you need clothing, and why would you need to sell people on the fact that you're closer to God than they are? So that's what I question. And that's, for me, that's a personal,
But you know why, right?
for me, questioning.
No, 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 no. Why they have to do that?
It's the only way to keep power and control.
Bingo.
It's the only way
Yeah.
for that organization to continue to be as dominant as it is in this current period of time. But my struggle with that is that they sell the idea of love, yet they do not act in the name of love.
Isn't that something very similar to walk the walk and talk the talk?
Actions speak louder than words,
See,
my friend.
one of the things that when I realized what I'm about to tell you, I was so sold on the spiritual aspect of 12 step.
Okay.
And basically, I just said it. When I was stuck on the way 12 step was delivered, it was like, I don't even know how I could even recommend that to anybody.
Right.
But when I was able to recognize the spiritual foundation and how it was the members that were creating the icky part, and I explain that to people straight out. I say, you're going to go to meetings. If you do go to meetings, there's going to be personalities there.
Yeah.
You know the phrase, I say this to them, the phrase, take what you want and leave the rest.
Right. Yeah.
Right? I said, that's the point even of life. People are so programmed. They're so programmed to look for nirvana and perfection. And as you've said in different ways, not taught how to manage disappointments and challenges without judging them.
Yeah.
And managing emotions when we have the effect of those challenges.
Right. I think the programming comes, though, because we're not taught to connect with each other. So the programming is initiated through a practice of oneself, where we can find a lot of clarity through perspective and shared conversation and communication, just like we are here today. I've learned so much from you today. And, we're just two humans that are having a conversation so we can grow in our own lives. And I think that the way the system is built, like dividing human beings and having them judge each other for their external practices and their identity on the outside, would have them practice that behavior within themselves. And that was a really wonderful tool within manipulation, is how can you put fear into the people that they'll practice and grow within themselves to see each other as different, or whatever it may be, right? And this is why we're having these public conversations about transgender and whatever it may be. It's just another thing that can divide human beings from an external value of who they are, when really the most important value comes from within, like you said. So, processing traumas and understanding your emotions is basically the catalyst for you to live in the present moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And understanding religion for its function and, its current present function in this society is very important because,
Mhm.
media, corporations, religions, military, politics, like these things have to be assessed for what they actually are. I mean, the military is such an interesting thing to me. When human beings have an inability to communicate with each other, it is absolutely acceptable to send in weapons of mass destruction to kill many, many innocent people that have no part in this conversation as a byproduct of an inability to communicate. And I'm like, what? Like,
Yeah.
have people running the country that see value in this?
Well, it's the ultimate expression of frustration.
That's a great way to put it, man. That's a really great way to put it.
You know what? You're not getting this? The hell with you. I'm gonna
Yeah,
kill you.
yeah.
Now, can we go can we go in a slightly different direction?
Yes, please.
Okay. Do you believe in death?
No, absolutely not.
There,
No,
there we go. We don't have to talk anymore.
yeah. No, no, I think it's important to have this conversation to really help
No,
people.
no, no, no. Can I just say one quick thing?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, because I just thought of this as you said what you said. So the irony is, if I can't tolerate that you won't do what I think you should do, because otherwise, whatever benefit I would have, I'm not going to get it. I'm going to eliminate you, but I'm really not even eliminating you.
No,
I'm eliminating the human, the 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 soul being human.
right.
I'm eliminating the external part of that.
Essentially, the vessel is the obstacle, which is why, when people are
I
speaking,
love you said that.
right? Well, you
Yeah.
help me, you help me
Yeah,
paint that
that's
picture.
exactly it.
Yeah, the vessel is the obstacle. So when people speak their truth, which is coming from the soul, source of the soul, our love and light is our truth, then entities or organizations or establishments that do not like that narrative being spoken, well, then the obstacle must be removed because we can't remove the energy. The energy
Right. Yeah, but
transmutes
because
back.
if anybody else believes this could become a problem.
A movement. It could be.
Oh, oh.
Yeah,
Yeah. You know Marianne Williamson?
I do.
She basically, in her own way, she basically says what you and I have been talking about.
Yes, yes. And I love that oh man, you just made my day. I love that you just said that we were talking like Marianne Williamson. I just
Yeah.
love, I love humans. I love humans. I don't idolize or anything like that, but Marianne Williamson's talking about cool shit. Like, I like that.
Yeah, she talks about love.
Yeah, she talks about love, and we're doing the same thing. And I think the beautiful thing about love and human experience, and I say this often, is that if the way we talk about things doesn't work for people, then find somebody who does. Like Marianne Williamson, she speaks in her own poetic way as well. And I think that that's a really wonderful thing, that we don't need to be the vessel that everybody connects with, because we have 8 billion people on the planet. So as long as you can find an individual that raises that vibrational frequency within you to be inspired to go on the journey within, hallelujah.
Or matches
You know what
it
I mean?
even, connects with it.
Yeah, like that's all that it's about.
Now, you have a podcast, right?
You're on it right now.
Okay. Now, when you interview somebody
Yeah.
and they're in a different place than you are,
Okay.
how do you manage that?
Ooh, you mean become an artist?
Yeah, what is your artistry with that?
And I'm really happy you asked that question. Wonderful question, because it's something that people begin to they begin to be fearful of speaking their truth because they're not sure of the audience. So, I am. I'm very good at understanding where someone is along their journey, because I believe when we understand ourselves, we're able to understand other individuals. And when we're having a conversation and I can see that, I must tailor this conversation in a different way, what I do is I bring an association into principles that I believe will fit with this individual's life. So I look for certain relations and associations that, like let's say I'm talking to a hockey mom or something, and she's trying to grab spiritual concepts. Well, I'll educate her through spiritual concepts through terminology and analogies of hockey, and she'll go, holy, I get it, and it's like, that's what we must do as messengers, is really, and artists. And we're all artists because we're all creators like God. We are all pieces of God. So God's a friggin' artist. I mean, the divine masculine and divine feminine is just art.
So it sounds like what you also are saying is some of what your communication would be with that person is partially you also meet them where they are and have them explain their point of view.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I've learned this as well. This is a recent piece of education that I learned, is sometimes I don't need to do all the talking. Yes, I understand a lot of things, but the more I listen to an individual, I've realized they are listening to themselves. And when an individual speaks and they understand the concepts, it integrates into their being. Now, if I show them the concepts and tell them the concepts, it might be difficult for them to integrate. But if I guide them to the education and allow them to understand that and see it within their own experience, we are able to integrate the education.
You just explained the foundation of true psychotherapy.
Wow. Cool.
It's not telling somebody what to do. It's helping them to arrive at whatever truth fits for them.
Yeah. And that's, and I, me, I never went to school. My classmates are my brothers and sisters around me. Every conversation I have, I learn from. And I learn from I am a student. I'm a student of love. And my purpose on this planet is to create an algorithm that heals ego. But I cannot be the healer. The individual must heal their ego. So I must become a master creator of an ability to deliver a mechanism that an individual will be able to adopt into their own understandings, create the scenario within themselves, and integrate a process of overcoming fear with love. So I see life that way.
And what I tell people that I counsel, when they give me a compliment of how much I've helped them,
Yeah.
I thank them for the compliment, and I tell them, please don't ever forget, I provide you with information. You're the one who deserves the credit for the progress that you've made.
Yeah. That's so important, because you have built a relationship with your ego as well. Because, and myself included, within helping people say, oh, Justin, you do this for me, you do this for me. I say, hey, whoa, I didn't do nothing for you. I was just an example of how you could lead your own life, and you did the work.
And
So,
who you truly are.
yeah, like, it's not a Justin, it's not an Alan, it's a brother and sister, and your evolution is our evolution. So you're helping me grow the whole thing. So, like, that's all we care about. But yeah, I checked that early. Yeah, I caught
Yeah.
that one, and
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing to catch, because when we understand our ego and how, what we feed it, and how we, some people say, oh, you got to control your ego, or you have to get rid of your ego. It's like, no. The ego has a very important function in this life. But when we build relationships with things, relationship comes with respect, trust, understanding, communication, loyalty. Now, when you build that with your ego, with yourself, holy, you're unstoppable, because you are in a direct connection with the soul essence of yourself.
And you're managing the true purpose of the ego.
Absolutely. So it's directed towards the vast growth of the brothers and sisters, and not the vast growth of one.
And now here's an example I'll give. How could you possibly know that you're not in pain if you never experience pain?
Absolutely. How could you ever appreciate bliss or light, or a state of peace, if you did not know fear and chaos? So, I love that you said that. Struggle is an essential part of life. It gives us the polarity to
In
understand,
human form, yeah.
yeah, in human
Yeah,
form.
yeah, definitely, definitely,
And I think that
definitely.
goes back to what you were saying about God trying to learn about itself in 8 billion different ways. So it's like if we can be put into these dense energetic states, low vibrational states, and alchemize with a high vibrational state, I mean the essence of God is evolving. That's how it happens. But we must do that in a three-dimensional form here through a wide variety of emotions.
And I think the blueprint, the essential blueprint of what you and I just this moment talked about,
Yeah.
the serenity prayer.
You know it? You want to say it?
Yeah.
Please say it.
God, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah, very beautiful. Very, very beautiful. I'm happy you brought that up. And I think people should understand that prayer is also very personal to you because
Mm,
prayer is implemented through action. So yes,
mm.
we have a spiritual higher relationship that can, be very helpful here in this three-dimensional planet, but the spiritual guidance and aid that comes from above is also reliant on us taking action within our lives and working together with it. And a lot of people pray for a lot of things and they don't receive what they want, and they're curious about that. It's like, well, you gotta be what you say, you know?
And by being what we say, in a sense, we are channeling the divine aspect of our human existence then.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. That is how we speak from our higher self. And if this human element of us can get out of the way, all the learned behavior, the temptation, the negativity, all of that can just get out of the way of this higher understanding of self, you can live through that form.
Yeah, with reasonable consistency.
Absolutely, because the consistency comes through your practice.
Yeah, and of course, there's going to be some inconsistency, but the idea, obviously, is to minimize that and to manage it when it happens.
Absolutely. I would absolutely and allow it. Because
Yeah,
when I became a student of love, making mistakes was one of the first thing that I understood was completely acceptable as long as I learned from it quickly.
and the thing that immediately came to my mind when you just said what you said is what you said. This is the way I'm interpreting it. What you just said is a reflection of let go and let God.
Let go and let God. Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, again, to our conversation we were having before, a lot of people get lost when we're talking about God and Jesus. And, what Alan and I have done with spiritual teachers and higher understandings is we've learned about God, spirituality from a different narrative than religion. And I think that, what I take from this conversation is it's just a beautiful perspective to sort of understand on your own terms in this life, because the awareness that can create outside of the indoctrinated religious beliefs that we have today will set you free in your own way, because you'll find peace within a higher practice of life. Geez, Al.
So,
Oh,
so what just came to my head from what you just said. Oh man, I got goosebumps. The
okay.
truth shall set you free.
Absolutely.
And now my interpretation of that is the truth will set you free from what you believe reality is to what it really is.
Absolutely.
As opposed to admit your sins and you'll be free.
Yeah. I'm going to touch on that. So anything that would induce fear in the name of God is not God. It cannot be God because God is not judgmental. At the end of the whole existence, many people fear death, so I'll share this. and this is just what I've come to understand throughout my journey and my experiences. At the end of the experience, there is no such thing as, this man in the sky that will come and judge you for your actions here on planet Earth. It's you. You, the source, the element, the soul essence of that piece
It's the
of God.
review. It's the review.
Exactly. You see how you affected others along your journey. Now, you've got to integrate those emotions. We either pay now or we pay later. And that's what that kind of means. You can
What do
pay.
you mean pay later?
Oh, like once you cross over. So the period of time to integrate to ascend. Because you'll still have to review your actions on this planet. And for many, when the soul comes out of a human experience, it takes time, right? So they'll hold themselves in the amount of time they need before they can ascend back to this higher density, this fifth density.
So are you saying that if the human form hasn't, I don't know what words to use, hasn't processed, hasn't learned,
Okay?
there's kind of an in-between period of the soul leaving the body and the soul having the opportunity to learn what it needed to learn, maybe in that form, until it goes to the next level?
Right. So if the human does not process its experience and does not become accountable for its actions in the human form while it's in the vessel and allows that energy to transmute, the soul carries the energy with it. Now, the energy is still stored in the body and it breaks the body down, and usually this is the result of our death. Absolutely. But our experiences are the only thing that we take within this life. They are what's integrated into the soul. This is what the education to help the evolution of the God particle or the prime creator source is all about. So if that vessel was not, or the experience, the human experience, was not processed here on the physical plane, after the body after the body is non-functional and the soul is transmuted from this three-dimensional form into a fourth dimensional form or fifth dimensional form, it has to sit with the energies and process it, because that's part of the evolutionary state, is still to transmute the energies. You don't just get to be free of all of your actions. From my understanding.
Okay, now, okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So now I'll tell you my understanding.
Okay, great. Yeah, please.
Before we come into human form, we identify the lessons we want to learn. Then we come into human form, we choose the families that we're going to be born into, and we're given the opportunity to learn the lessons that we agreed to learn.
Agreed.
So the question that came up in my mind, which I don't know if there's an answer to this, is there any way that in human form, before we transition, I'm thinking of the answer as I'm asking the question.
Okay, I do that too.
Okay. Is there any way we can know that we did that? But then I think you just gave the answer that when you go to that so-called in-between state,
Yeah.
you learn. Now, the only thing is, what part of what my understanding is, which who knows, is that whatever you don't learn, that's one of the contributing factors to coming back in another human form so that you could learn it. But now what you said, which is possible, is that you learn it in that in-between state.
That's my understanding. So
Which could be.
Yeah, so one way or another, you are going to be accountable, whether it's in the three-dimensional form or in the after, because
Yeah.
the energy and the experience is the only thing that the vessel, like the soul essence, is containing. But we've been manipulated to believe that success comes through an ideology of beauty or ones and zeros in a bank account or titles or countries or all this other shit. And that's just the disillusion from the experience itself. But I think it also plays a factor in the experience. So, the organizations that are controlling people and, they're creating oppression and whatnot are a practical part of the experience.
Yeah.
It's just all this whole thing is to evolve a very dense energetic state into a state of nirvana or
Yeah.
an alchemized state of love, and this is what it looks like. But I believe right now what we're witnessing, the great difficulties are the end of a system. And this is what the fall of that looks like. So it's very difficult for many people. They're very afraid of this and that, retirement, money, security, all this other crap. But it's like when you do your personal growth and you go on a spiritual journey within and understand higher concepts, like this is what Alan and I do, then you're free from these conceptual ideas of restriction built up by the system. Because the system's just created like sort of a tool of manipulation. Like, it's just that. So once you see it for what it is and you unlearn everything you've been taught, you become sovereign and you become free, and you connect with your brothers and sisters who have found this place of peace as well, and we grow it together.
Yes.
Man, I'm grateful for you at 76. Like, dude, you are like
I love being called dude at 76. That's usually like a 30-year-old thing.
Yeah, but I can lay that on you like that. And even after I said it, I was like, wow, I just called a 76-year-old man dude. But it's like I'm talking to your inner child. And that's, I wasn't kidding when I said that, because my grandmother really did teach me that. Like, you see people from within. And I didn't know what that meant for a long time, but then I started to see people's essence for who they were. And I was like, wow. And honestly, I didn't know how this conversation was going to go, but I go into everything without expectation. And I was like, this was one of the most beautiful conversations that I've had. And I'm so grateful for it. I'm really grateful for you today, man.
Well, I'm also very, very grateful for you, but I got to tell you something, that you are the first person that has ever done a podcast with me.
Okay.
That all it was a conversation.
You know what the cool thing about my podcast is?
No, but you could tell me.
Just this, brother. I go into it.
So what do you do with the podcast? Like, once it's recorded, what do you do with it?
I put it up on YouTube and Spotify, and people connect to it.
No, wait a minute. You and I have been talking for a very long time.
Yeah.
Do you edit it?
Yeah, sometimes. I'll pull out some little things in it, but I don't have to do much because it's super organic. And actually, I had a conversation today with the girl, Tara Portelli. She'll be on the podcast episode either before this one or after this one. And she was a catalyst. And usually how I do these things, I have a studio inside with a microphone and all these things. And I came outside to do it today, and I was having a conversation with her, and I was like, holy shit, like, this was such an organic, cool, beautiful conversation, because I changed my environment and I changed the way I do things. I wasn't trying to make everything so perfect. And she said that. She said, we get caught up in that, and then we really lose the organic ability of what something can be. So when I came out here today to do this with you, this was probably, to be honest with you, man, one of the best podcasts that I've ever done. And
wow, thank you.
Yeah, no, seriously.
I know what you mean, though. I know it's not like an ego thing you're saying. You're saying it was really like a soul-based conversation.
Yeah, like, I just mean it was so, oh man, because sometimes, how when you drop into the flow state and you speak from your higher self, when I'm in the studio and I've got the microphone there, I do have like a disassociation from my human self to my higher self, and it conflicts, and then I'll forget what I'm saying, and then or I'll lose my train of thought or whatever it may be. But when I'm out here and I'm doing this and I'm like, look, let's just have a conversation between humans, it's like all that went away, and I could just drop into the flow state and have this super beautiful organic conversation about difficult topics, about beautiful understandings, and just be real, just be myself. And that's what my whole podcast was built around. But for anyone listening to this, I have just figured out how to do this all the time. So things are going to evolve.
So when you have a conversation with somebody, say for like an hour and a half,
yeah,
how much of that do you put on Spotify and wherever else?
All of it, man. I'm going to send you the links. So I put up the video. What we've recorded right here will go up on my YouTube channel. And then I pull the audio from the file, and I'll pump that up on Spotify so people can listen to it in their car or on their way to work or whatever it may be. My place on Spotify is doing pretty good. So,
wow.
And my platforms are growing all over.
Now, are you and I going to be seen?
Yeah, everyone's going to see this right
So,
here.
so it's video. This is the most. I'm going to tell you. Tell me if you know what I'm saying.
Okay.
This is the most right brain interview I've ever been on.
Cool, man. Means a lot to me.
This is amazing.
Yeah, no, dude, you have made this amazing for me as well because I feel like anyone, coming on here, I'll be real with you, man. People see like a 76-year-old guy, like you've turned up, man. You got the headphones on, you're in front of your camera, you figured it out, you knew what to do, and I would believe that there are many people that would not have ever expected the conversation to come out of these two individuals in this manner. So I am beyond grateful for you. I am so appreciative of you. And I really value your work that you've put into yourself as a 76-year-old man because people need to remember the generation that you came from, and being
Baby boomer.
yeah, like indoctrinated into how do you say it? Jewish?
Judea. Well, I was raised in the Jewish religion. Yeah.
Jewish religion. That's no small thing. That's no small thing. And not to say
No.
it overpowers Christianity or Muslim or Buddhism or anything like that. It doesn't. But there's
There's an intensity.
Yes, thank you. That's the word. And there was some very dark things that happened to try and eradicate that whole sect, but that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, so I think that there's an immense respect for you cracking the code of your human self to integrate with your higher self and the work that goes into that from the generation that you come from. So bravo.
I like the way you said that. Crack the code. I like
You cracked
that.
the code, man.
No. You have a way of expressing yourself that no one has to say, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, thank you.
It's like you're so clear.
Thank you. I've put a lot of work into myself to be clear. And
Yeah.
like I
It
don't,
doesn't come natural, I don't think, generally.
no, and honestly, I'm just a vessel. Like this is just like I'm just the container. It just I can feel it too. Like it settles over top of me, and it's a different feeling, and it's like okay, let's do this. And it speaks from it's like who I am from the spiritual realm, and this is it. But that person is not just one; it's many. Like sometimes I'll get these other. Like I talk from a different perspective and I'm like, whoa, who's this? Like, what's this thing happening to me right now? So I'm just the container that allows it to come through and I deliver it. But I'm really grateful for it because I really value being a messenger in this life to awaken more messengers so that we can, evolve and move through this dense energy. Because that's all I care about. I just want us all to live in harmony and peace and love and have schools of consciousness and really see what like humans can do. Like the greatest technology that exists on planet Earth right now is not external from us, it's internal. We just have to know how to use it.
Yeah. With whatever you're going to send me, would you also include how I can listen to the different broadcasts?
Yeah, I'll send you all the links, man. No worries.
Because I mean, basically, these are the conversations you have, right?
Yeah, this is it. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I'll send you access to everything, but I'll tell you, Alan, you are a pivotal part in Real Talk for an Unreal World history because you are the first recorded podcast from this state of a conversationalist perspective where I was able to be myself without any well, I don't want to say fear, but I'll call it fear, without any belief systems surrounding what it means to be a podcaster or what it means to be Justin or what it means to be, a recovered addict or some shit. You allowed me to be myself, and I thank you for that.
Well, I'm glad. See, I think basically what you just said is that when people are real with each other, there's a much greater potential for flow.
Yeah. And you had it right away. I caught into you right away. I was like, oh, okay. That's why I started with the way I started it. Because I just saw it right away. And I was like, after talking to Tara this morning, I was like, I told my wife, I'm like, no, I'm going to go outside and I'm just going to have this conversation. And this was only meant to be a 30-minute, let's get to know each other. But I have learned that the greatest conversations come right in the beginning. So I hit record right away and I was like, yes, like this was,
Oh, so you switched.
yeah, I switched. I
Oh,
was,
that's so cool.
yeah, I was going to lead this thing with just a 30-minute, let's get to know each other. And then I was like, no way, this is the podcast. Let's do it.
And
Right.
that's what I thought. And that's why at one point while we were talking, in response to something I said, you said, this is the podcast. I didn't even, I thought you were just getting to know me.
No, I know. I left you hanging on that one, but,
Oh, that's so funny.
but you brought it. You came with the goods. So no, that's cool. You did great. And you're right. I did just flow that in there because the conversation was so beautiful. I was like, no, we need to hit this right now. This is great. Like this is,
You know what that's like? That's like if you're ever on a nude beach and you see a woman and you don't even have to think twice. You just know you could talk to her
yeah.
or you want to talk to her.
I married her.
Right. Right. It's that kind of thing. It's like you had that natural feel and you went with it.
Yeah, it's true. And I think that what we're talking about with that is like removing like this idea of regret, guilt, shame, these dense energies that kind of hold us in this fear state. We just are like, no, I'm going to go with myself and the higher self and just let's go.
And also letting go, as you've said, of expectation.
So I'm going to put your links down below, but like, how do people get a hold of you? How do they find you? What do you do?
Okay, when you say links down below, oh, you mean what you're going to put up?
Yeah, in the comments.
Okay,
Like in my
okay,
description
all
section.
right. Okay, well, basically, the website that I would like people to go to
Okay.
is lifemasterywithalan.com.
Okay.
The reason for that is that I have a self-published book and an e-learning program that guides people through recovery from addiction.
Okay.
And also, if someone wants to call me, my phone number is 281
No. We won't.
No?
We won't put that up simply because there's.
Oh, from Canada, right?
Well, no. Like there. I don't want. Like no. Let's. I'll tell you.
No, just tell me the reason. That's okay with me. Tell me the reason,
Scammers, man. Like I don't want people flooding you with all kinds of.
Oh, yeah.
Like no,
Yeah.
man. No, I don't want to
Okay.
put that up.
Okay.
In there.
And go ahead.
Is there a way for them to contact you through the website?
I can give my email address.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay. It's Alan, ALAN, at Alan Simberg, SIMBERG.com.
Okay, wonderful.
And I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Yeah, I'm going to put all your social links at the bottom.
Oh, and Instagram.
Okay, I'll put all that in there, and then people can connect with you because I think as a 76-year-old human experience on this planet that has alchemized many belief systems and learned behaviors and turned his life into something really, really inspirational, I would encourage people to reach out to you. And I believe they will. After this conversation, I mean, certain age demographics that are listening to this, they may connect with your understanding of what it was like to live at a time that, my generation may not understand as well, right? So there will be more associations and relationships created over common understandings of what you went through when you were younger. So please, people, if you're listening to this and you found anything that you can associate within our conversations, that's why we do this. Connect with us, connect with each other, and this is what building a community looks like. And this is how we learn and we grow off of that. Because you talk to Alan might say, oh, hey, I know a woman in Florida, I know a woman in Japan, and she might be able to help you with this. Like, that's how my whole life goes. It just goes from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. But I've learned that if I never took that first step to put myself in a different situation, that I would never know what could be. And that's why this podcast was so amazing today. So, yeah.
The last quick thing I'll say
Yeah.
is what you just said, going from here to here to here to here. That's exactly how I got to where I am today. It was a series of learning about certain things, going for it, and then going to the next step was just revealed.
Yeah, exactly. It's because we took a chance on ourselves and we didn't allow the fear of the unknown to limit us. We actually looked at it as an opportunity. And
That's how I got into the addiction field.
nice.
That's exactly how it was Synchronicity.
Yeah. You found your purpose, and I think that we do this when we go on a journey within. So much love, brother. I appreciate you so much for being
Same to you too, for sure.
Man, you made my day. Like, wow, like this was cool. Actually, all the speakers that I spoke to today made my day, but like this was
Sure.
cool. This was cool because I hit record. So I'm so happy for that.
Oh, I forgot to record.
Yeah, I did that this morning. I was like, shit, never again. So I very much appreciate you. I value you. I see you, and thank you for being here.
Well, it's my pleasure, and thank you very much for this opportunity to have this wonderful conversation with you.
Thank you, sir.